Hello friends, welcome to another episode of Blossoms and Bourbon. My name is Mark, I'm the owner here at Creative Occasions. Welcome to my workroom. And Happy New Year! We're in 2025 now, and how exciting is that? New opportunities, new everything, so that's good. I am sipping while I'm working today on this Winter Jack from Jack Daniel's. It's a spiced apple punch concoction that they came up with, which is supposedly based on an old family recipe that originated in the Jack Daniel's family. It's got apple liqueur, some Jack Daniel's Old No. 7 in it, and then holiday spices. So there's orange peel, cinnamon, that kind of stuff. I will tell you, I think it's very sweet. Almost to the point that I would think of this like as a mixer. If you're making an apple flavored bourbon or whiskey cocktail, that this might be really good with that. My staff gifted me with this. Thank you to the staff at Creative Occasions for a great holiday gift. All right, so speaking of winter, we're in full winter season here in our area. We're in Virginia, and we've had 2 winter weather episodes already, which is kind of unusual for us. The first one was more icy. The most recent one was more snow, had about maybe 2 to 3 inches of snow. So it didn't like shut down the city or anything, but anyway, we're supposed to be having more next weekend. So I thought it would be kind of interesting to do a winter themed arrangement. Jason had mentioned at some point, because he had heard me talk about doing flocking on arrangements, he said, why don't you do an episode about that? So this winter arrangement will feature flocking, and I'll show you what that means and how we do that in just a second. I'm using this beautiful sort of matte, almost graphite colored pitcher. That's like a pottery pitcher. I just love this container so much. Plastic coated chicken wire is going to be the mechanic. And I am kind of turning those edges in, those rough cut edges, because I don't want to scratch the interior of this container. So we're just going to kind of work that in. I know sometimes I have this done in advance, but I thought you guys might like to just see how this is not a very specific artsy-fartsy kind of technique. Yeah, and that's going to go pretty far down in there, which is not a problem at all. Going to hold our stems nicely. We'll add some water to it. And because it's a winter arrangement, we're still going to be using winter foliages. We do still have some foliages here at the shop that are typical of that, some fir, some white pine, some cedar. So let's add just a little bit of that to get us going. Another thing that I'll show you about winter foliage and the rose stripper that I really like, it's kind of a no-no to put leaves, any kind of foliage elements below the water level in an arrangement. It causes it to deteriorate, builds up bacteria, that sort of thing. So if we're putting this stem with those little leaves and the green foliage part down in there, it's going to do exactly that. It's going to cause the arrangement not to last as long. The rose stripper is a great little thing because you can simply put the rose stripper around the stem where you want to strip it and give it a good pull. And look at that, nice, clean stem, pretty quickly, pretty easily. Rather than, I've seen some designers before who will take their knives and they'll scrape this off, and it's like, no, let me show you this. This is much faster. So we'll do that again. Rose stripper right around the stem. So it's kind of holding the stem right in that little V opening of the rose stripper. And we're just going to pull hard, and that will strip that right off. We do want it to have a fresh cut every time we put one in. This, one of my favorite foliages, it's called flat cedar. Can you see that little pine cone on there? That is the coolest thing. I love that. This is going to be just a very casual kind of arrangement. It's not going to be formal at all, and it's going to involve all white flowers. We're going to be using white Mondial roses, which is a rose that has a little bit of a green tint to it, which is kind of nice. We'll be using some white stock, some white lisianthus, some white hypericum berries, and some white Gerber daisies that have black centers. That is going to be an amazing part of making the arrangement relate to this container because of the color of the container. So, kind of excited about that. All right. Let's get those hydrangeas in there first. Again, we're going to strip foliage off those as well. Sometimes when you get hydrangeas, and particularly if they've been shipped, you're going to have just little blemishes on the bloom. Just pull those off. They don't hurt anything, but it certainly detracts from the attractiveness of the arrangement. And I am going to use alum to dip them in because I want this to have a nice long shelf life. So cut the fresh cut on the stem, just dip it straight into the alum powder. A little bit of the alum will attach to the bottom of the stem and then goes right in the water. That alum is not going to hurt any of the other flowers that are in the arrangement either. In fact, we use it here at the shop when we're processing Gerber daisies so that it helps with the longevity of the Gerber as well. Fresh cut in the alum, in the water. All right, I will put a link in the description of products I'm using. I'll try to find a link for this container as well, but certainly the alum and a list of the flower types that we're using will be in there. Here's the stock. Okay, this is the white Mondial rose. And let me just hold up a couple of those and show you what I'm talking about. See how it has that kind of that greenish tint on it? It's a really beautiful rose. One of the things I like about this variety, Mondial, specifically, is that little ruffled edge that you can see in there as well. So when these open, they tend to open more like garden roses. They have that little sort of ruffled look to them. I did not get these out in time for them to open properly for this video, but you'll just have to trust me on that. And speaking about you guys, thank you so much for joining us in the new year, for being loyal viewers and subscribers. If you enjoy and like the content, I hope that you'll remember to like this video, give it a thumbs up, certainly subscribe, and hit that little bell icon so that you will be notified when Jason and I are posting new content. All right, there's not a specific form that I'm following with this arrangement. It's really just kind of a mixed arrangement, so the placement of all these flowers is going to be just kind of random through and make, you see what I did with that? The positioning of that stalk kind of balances this little angle of the handle of the container. I kind of like that a little bit better instead of it just looking like bunny ears or something. All right, let me just show you what I'm seeing over on this side. You've got that on that side. We're good, I think. I've also got a couple of stems of white lisianthus that were left over from another project. I love lisianthus. I love how delicate it appears, but it is a sturdy, sturdy flower. It holds up incredibly well. It's got that little fine, kind of wispy look to it. Many people often mistake lisianthus for a variety of rose when it gets open because of how the blooms open. And hypericum, honestly, I use hypericum a lot for fall and winter arrangements because in the fall and the winter, I think about berries. You know, I don't think about berries as per se berries in the summer or in the spring, but for fall and this time of year, I do think about berries as an important element of kind of the texture of this time of year and ways to kind of enhance flower arrangements. I think they're beautiful. This hypericum, you've seen me use it before. It's commonly called coffee berry and comes in a lot of different colors. So it's very applicable to a lot of different situations and design styles. All right, let's get some of those Gerbers in there because I feel like they're going to be the star of the show. Yeah, see that dark center on the Gerber and how once that's in, that's going to pull out that coloring of the container. It's going to be awesome. One thing that I try to be aware of, particularly when working with Gerbers, I want this arrangement to be all around, you know, and in the business we call all around something that you put in the middle of your table and your guests are going to be sitting all around it so they can look at this arrangement from all sides. And from all sides, it's pretty. It's going to look nice. So one thing that I try to do with that in mind is not have everything facing in one direction. And because there is an obvious face on this flower, then it's very important not to make everything, you know, turn in that direction. Because then the people on this side of the table are going to be looking at the back of the flower. So this one is facing forward, this one is facing to the side. We're going to make this one face this direction. Just a way to kind of make sure that everybody has something beautiful to look at. I also think that from a design standpoint, the Gerbers are also making your eye travel in different directions through the arrangements. So it helps with the movement of the arrangement. So you kind of start over here with the direction going in this way, you follow here to the next one, the stalk up, roses over, following the cedar on this side. So it's just a way to kind of visually make it a little more interesting, I think. So for flocking, what we're going to do is we're going to take the regular old canned spray snow that when we were all kids, well, when some of us were kids, we would use it to decorate windows, you know, and you had stencils, and you put the stencil on the window, and then you use the spray snow and spray over it, and then remove the stencil, and it would leave this really cool pattern, whatever the stencil was, on your window. And so it looked like it had snowed on your window and made these pretty snowflakes or Santa's sleigh or whatever. That's the same product that we're going to use for the flocking. And the snow itself is going to create the flocking. And then we're going to enhance that ever so slightly with some glitter. So we'll feel like that we're walking out in the fields on a moonlit night in the snow. Now, I will tell you, it makes a bit of a mess when you're spraying the snow. So you also want to, you could, because of the type of container that this is, you could actually just wipe the container off once you're finished with the kind of the flocking process. I always use something like this, put a little piece of cardboard under it. So we're going to just kind of literally spray the snow on the greenery, which doesn't work when you hold the can upside down. It's okay if you hit some of the flowers, and you'll see that the greenery starts to get that white effect on it. This snow stuff is wet. So when it comes out of the can, it will be wet. It will stay wet for just a bit. And that's important because then when you sprinkle the glitter on it, that's what makes the glitter adhere to the greenery, the wetness of the snow. This is a really super fine glitter. I'll have a link to that as well. And it's kind of iridescent. It's got this iridescent quality to it. This one is one that's a little bit chunkier, so the flakes are a little bit bigger. I want to kind of use a little bit of both. Just because I think the effect is nice. Yeah, I purposely did a little bit on that hypericum. I just think that's going to make it look a little more authentic and real. Like it really did maybe snow on this arrangement. We have actually done corporate events and other events, weddings in particular, with this technique and flocked the greenery in it. It's a really beautiful effect, especially in the evening when there's candlelight on tables and you have this greenery that's got this beautiful flocking on it. I mean, look at how that catches the light just in moving it around. It's really lovely. So make a winter arrangement doing that. Now, I want to put a couple of pine cones in here. Remember the technique for the pine cone, right? Is you take a pretty thin gauge wire and we're just going to wrap it through those petals of the pine cone, making sure that they're nice and snug down inside there. You can't even see that wire in there. We're going to twist it so that the wire is nice and secure inside the pine cone. Now in this case, what I thought I'd do is just, we don't want to use a pick because we don't want the chemicals that have been used to treat the pick down in the arrangement. So in this case, I'm just taking another piece of greenery and I'm going to wire the pine cone to this piece of greenery, almost like it's growing there. I don't need all that wire wrapped around there, so I'm going to cut a little bit of that off. And then we're just going to tuck that in to the arrangement. So not only do you get the effect of the extra greenery in there, but you also get the effect of the pine cone tucked in. You really don't have to get crazy about how you twist the wire on this because they're going to stay. I mean, that's not going anywhere, and especially once it's down in the arrangement. All right, I'm going to put one more over on this side, and then I think we're going to call this done. So flocking is something that this doesn't necessarily impact the life of this greenery. It would probably impact the life of the flowers. The greenery is something that's going to be pretty sturdy regardless, I think. One of the things that we would do for an event after this is just put these in the cooler and let them dry. So that as you move this, if you're moving them while they're wet, you'll wipe the snow off the greenery and you'll have that effect take place. So you do want them to dry a bit before you move them if you're moving them from one location to another. Or in this case, if you're just moving it to your dining room table, you're probably fine. So there we go. A winter floral arrangement to make us feel like that if we didn't look outside and see the snow on the ground that it really is winter here. This has been fun, and again, I'm so appreciative of you taking the time to join me. Look for another new episode coming up in 2 weeks, and until then, cheers to you and to flowers every day. Thanks for joining.